Hello, Visionary fans. We're back with another Visionary podcast. As always, I am Matthew, and I am joined today by Visionaries King and God Emperor Gove. How are you doing, Gove?
Yep, doing well.
Nice. And we have a treat. We have a guest on the podcast today. Mink can't make it, so we've replaced him with a superior winner. We have with us the
That's
winner of Visionary Survivor Season 10 Blood versus Water, Maji. How are you?
I am doing wonderfully, and thank you for acknowledging the very true fact that I am the superior winner to all the winners.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Hi.
Yes, I thought it would be fun since I've been talking to Mink, the winner who screwed me over, to bring on the second winner who screwed me over and beat me, because I'm a glutton for punishment. So
If it helps, I enjoyed it.
it does help. It does help.
Yeah.
So we're here again to talk about Visionary Survivor Season 11 Battle of the Century. And the elephant in the room, let's get out of the way. We've had pagonging, basically, for the entire season.
Very, very troubling.
Very troubling. Yeah, I think the battle of the century has already sort of been solved. The people born 2000 and before are the winners, which I knew would happen as a member of that century. But not a lot of drama getting from here to there. Um, Again, we have a podcast where one tribe loses four straight times. So there's only one
Yep.
tribe that we have to focus on, which again, nice for me, not necessarily nice for the entertainment of the season as a whole, but makes it easy
Makes
for me
things
to
easier.
absolutely, which I love. So let's jump into it. We start with a swap. So if you remember from the last episode, the young person tribe lost four straight times uh, to take us into the swap at the final 14. And the two tribes are on the. Gove, can you help me with the tribe pronunciation names?
Sabatinting and Masalai.
Okay. On the Masalai tribe, which is the yellowier one, they're the one we will be focusing on more. We have Alex, Annabeth, Ben, and Crow from the old people, and Harry, Jessica, and Tyrell from the younger people. And on the other tribe, we have Anthony, Bree, Cove, Craig, and Hudson from the older people tribe, and Kenneth and Triss from the younger tribe. So, in the first challenge, the Masalai tribe loses. And I think we should just start this off with a more general conversation because we see this a lot. People get swap screwed, and we have a tribe with four people from the old tribe and three people from the younger tribe. Uh, and we eventually end up seeing Jessica leave in this episode by a vote of 4-3. So I wanted to ask you guys just off the top, what do you think that Jessica or any people on the young tribe could have done better to survive in this situation? I know it seemed like they were sort of getting in with Ben, who was sort of on the bottom at first, but that didn't end up working out. So what do you guys think could have been done for the younger tribe members here in this first vote?
I think in terms of like if we're just focusing on Jessica, I think she made the mistake of making herself a large threat not only to her own teammates, like their own younger tribe, but also making herself a very clear threat tribal one of swap to the older tribe. Because at first I remember being like, maybe I should go with the younger tribe, but then after the older people brought up how much of a big threat she would be at merge, which would be approaching soon, he was like, I'm going to stick with the old people then. Basically, starting the colossal downfall of the rest of the Youngians, sadly. Because I thought Jessica was an amazing player. For her first org, this is an amazing display. But the tragedy was, she just, it's like Icarus. She tried to fly too close to the sun, and her wings fell apart as she collapsed to the ground.
Absolutely. I think that's very true. I know Gove and I talked a lot last time about Jessica about how her potential fatal flaw would be playing such an open power game and
Yeah,
really being at the forefront of everything. And she dominated her tribe pre-swap and was in a position of power. And this was her first time experiencing not being in power. And she didn't change up her game at all. So I think I absolutely agree with all your points. I think the Icarus metaphor is incredibly apt.
because I feel like a lot of people will do that. Because I know, reading back, I didn't know, but apparently I had a lot of power in pre-merge, and I did not know this. But apparently, me going, that's why I know whenever it came to swap time, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit back, chillax, and do nothing. And I did exactly that, and no one even paid attention to me again. Even the people who already knew that I had done this thing during pre swap. And I feel like Jessica should have definitely done that as well. Honestly, I feel like a lot, basically, the Youngins should have just kind of just only tried to befriend Ben and
Yeah.
slowly trickle in that sense of doubt on that they would nominate him over the rest of them so that it would have been easier to get Ben to flip, especially since even Crow, is it, or is it Cove?
Crow is on this tribe. I also get confused between Crow and Cove.
Yeah, because even Crow later on considers flipping. It feels like they should have just focused on trying to flip first instead of just trying to be like, okay, here's our target. Because then they kind of screwed themselves because they didn't earn any of their trust fully enough to actually get that flip secured enough. If that makes sense, I'm bad
No,
with words.
no. It totally makes sense. I absolutely agree. My swap screwed philosophy is definitely all about making social bonds before you move into the strategic aspect of the game. And obviously, that's a lot easier when you don't lose the first challenge of the swap. So we can cut Harry, Jessica, and Tyrell some slack there, I think. But I absolutely
Definitely.
agree that, I mean, I'm I am worried we're gonna spend this entire podcast being like, in Visionary Survivor season 10, this is what happened.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. I
No, because
just
I'm about to do it too. Is what I'm saying. But when we were swapped together, uh, um, my strategy was similar. I was obviously down in numbers, and my strategy was definitely less about talking strategy and more about creating those social bonds. Of course, I did have the advantage of like knowing people's partners and being friends with Jay to get in with Enrique. So my situation
you
is
def
obviously different, but
you definitely got me with being like, I'm Julie's number one person, and I'm like, ah, shit, I gotta be with him.
yes,
Definitely.
I am glad that
Oh,
worked.
in terms of this season of Love Swap, though, I think in any swap situation, there's always, to an extent, something you can do. You can be more social, you can prove yourself more of an asset, all these kinds of things to get yourself across. But in this particular situation, I think they just really got hit in a bad swap because I mean, as we saw, initially Annabeth was fine with flipping on her old members because she didn't want to put Gong in, but she was swapped over with people from her previous tribe that she liked and wanted to keep, and those are her allies. Had she been swapped over with Cove or Bree, she would have been completely open to swapping. She stated that numerous times. Later down the line, after we saw Jessica and Harry get eliminated, Crow was fine with swapping, but by that point it was kind of too late because Terrell was already feeling the mental angst of everything going on in the weight. But it's just a really unfortunate situation where the numbers do exist, just not in the way that they formed on the new swap tribe.
It's
Yeah,
just really tragic, honestly.
Hmm. And,
Because I
and like
feel
you were
like,
saying with,
oh,
sorry,
sorry. No, you go.
like you were saying with losing the first challenge, I think had they been able to win one or two before going to tribal, and it had been closer to the merge, there probably would have been a better sense of urgency for someone to flip from the original Sabatinting on the new Maslowite tribe, just because you're getting closer to the merge. There's more options, and you can leave more doors open by flipping in that situation. but because they ended up losing every tribal or every challenge, it put themselves in a bad situation.
Yeah, let's move on from the. Well, I guess there's one more thing to talk about with the Jessica boot that's pretty important. We see the older tribe successfully gets Harry to flush his idol.
Oh, it was
Um,
so tragic.
yes, very
It
sad.
was so
That
bad.
the three young tribe members completely basically unraveled. All their advantages sort of went away. Excuse me, and Harry, out of the four boots, I think Harry's boot in the next episode really hurts me the most because he was someone that I really enjoyed watching play. He was sort of Jessica's right hand man, but had a lot more subtlety in his game, I think. And I was really expecting him to make it a lot farther than he did, and kind of like go of what you're talking about. Just the bad luck of losing the first challenge, not being able to get that time to sort of form social bonds, really screwed him. But also, you have to give credit to like Crow and Annabeth and Alex and Ben for getting him to feel comfortable or uncomfortable enough to play the idol on himself. I know that's
I was about to say, oh,
no,
Hmm.
I was about to say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
no, go
but it
for it.
was just,
Always interrupt.
sorry.
I talk about
But
nothing.
I found, no, you talk about stuff, but basically, I found it's a very smart move on the older people's part that they were able to flush it because just in case somehow they couldn't get out Jessica, at least they could get out an idol, so that's even one less advantage for the youngins. But at the same time, it's just it sucks to see not only lose Jessica, who was the most powerful player on the Youngian side on that tribe, but to also see Harry lose an idol because of that anxiety of being told he's going to be the one voted out, and then to end up not even getting a single vote to make it even matter. Which just,
Yeah.
I honestly, if that were me, I would just throw in the towel and be like, "Well, good day, everybody. It was nice to have you, but I'm done. I'm out of here."
Yeah. It's a very maybe not maybe embarrassing is the wrong word, but frustrating spot. Go. I think you can speak to this. It's very difficult to actually pull this off and get someone to play an idol and like kind of balance the idea of like you're in danger but not make it too blatant, because I know when I have an idol and people try to trick me into playing it, um well, I can't take all the credit. When Robbie talks me down, he he told me they wouldn't make it so obvious if they were going to play it on you. It's tough to walk that line of making it seem like you're the target but not making it too obvious to know they're trying to flush your idol. Can you speak to that maybe a little bit and the skill that takes?
It's honestly, I don't even know if it's a. I mean, to an extent, it's a skill, but to me, it comes down to your reads. It's your social reads and your strategic. And some people are just born with good instincts like that. For other people, it takes experience. It takes playing the orgs numerous times and being in that situation and playing through it, one, two, three, four, 5 million times before that, and really understanding how it works. Um, I think in that situation, when you're in the minority, it's really tricky even when you do have that idol because you know you have to play perfectly. And that added pressure can make you act selfishly, like we saw Harry do, because he was so quick to believe that he was the target, even if he wasn't. So it really just comes down to, you know, knowing who you can trust, looking at the way people are talking to you, and the certain types of language they're using, whether they're being aggressive and trying to get you to play something and bait you, or maybe they're being more reserved to kind of push you in a different direction. It's really just about reading your other castaways and your tribe mates,
So what you're
especially with
saying,
individual.
correct me if I'm wrong, is you're saying that this is Harry's fault and not a good move by the other tribe.
Well, it's a little bit of both because I mean, when you're in a swap situation in the minority, there's so many different steps you have to get to get or into safety. First, you have to make sure that your old tribe mates, the people who ended in the minority with you, are still solid and they're not going to flip for their own safety. Then you have to make sure you're actually making good bonds with those in the majority to see if you can make them not vote you. Then you have to see if you can flip them. Yada 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 yada. It goes down so many different steps you have to get through for safety. When you have this idol, it's a bit of a blessing and a curse because you're in a situation now where you can change the game or get yourself in a tie position or a majority position depending on how you play it. But it's also not knowing whether you're going to play it correctly or incorrectly, or if you should play it, if you should hold on to it. All these different possibilities can make it really, really tricky to know what you should do with said idol, which can lead you in situations like Harry, where he just kind of gave into peer pressure and played it out of, I guess, just anxiousness.
Plus, in Harry's defense, they had, as far as if I'm remembering correctly, they had no idea about the Jessica vote. They were all pretty solid that Harry would be the vote, but
Right,
because they thought Ben was solid with them, the others weren't worried about it, but of course Harry was, because
Mm,
if he really was the vote and Ben didn't flip, then he would be gone for good. But
right.
imagine if they had, even if there was the slightest leak of Jessica being the vote, I feel like everything would have played drastically different. Because I feel like in that case, Harry would have played the idol on Jessica, and we would have very much seen a very different start to the swap tribe. Don't know if it would play out too much differently, but I don't know with it being tied and if they're really going to keep on going to tribal council, at least it wouldn't be just picking off the youngins one by one.
yeah. I think this conversation definitely leads into the next episode where we see Harry get voted out unanimously. Um,
Oof.
oof. Um, so in this episode, we see Tyrell flip on Harry, which I think is actually the best move for Tyrell in this situation. Um, Try to cover up the fact that he is from a different original tribe, build the unity with the old people by voting this way. But at the same time, I know it was motivated more out of a sense of betrayal, in the sense that Harry didn't tell Tyrell about the idol. And that was part of the motivation for voting out Harry. Gove, as someone who's played with Tyrell before, uh, what do you think his primary motivation in turning on Harry in this vote was?
His primary motivation in terms of turning on Harry at that point is keep myself safe. I mean, from my experience playing with Terrell, he's someone who thinks very one tribal at a time, one round at a time. And that's not in terms of that's not like a bash on him saying he's like short sighted, he doesn't think long term at all. It's more so that he's someone who has the confidence and he trusts himself and has the skill set to be able to get through one by one, each round at a time and still make it to the end with a pretty decent resume. Um, so in that situation, I mean, when he's lost already, what, 6 immunities at that point, it's
Yeah,
really just what can I do to keep myself safe? I'm sensing a merge is coming. Once I break through that, I can rest a bit. I can figure out what I want to go from there, figure out what my next options are, and then just keep moving forward. So, and especially after Harry didn't tell him about the idol, after Harry was supposedly hit one of his top two or three allies, maybe even his top ally, that doesn't really, it's not going to sit too well with anybody. So I think
Does
that's fair. Uh, yeah, I I think that's probably a lot more fair than what I said. Honestly, sorry, Tyrell. I was a little hard on you. uh,
I feel like Tyrell, personally, Tyrell had the right thought of flipping, but I felt like he should have kept on with the flipping because if he I know, I guess this is kind of a lead into the next episode, but it really did look like that people like Cove were going to be willing to flip in order to keep Tyrell safe and possibly get out one of his own original tribe mates. But sadly, we didn't get to see that happen due to Tyrell sadly just quitting,
yeah,
which I don't blame him for because I would also be pretty demotivated if I was kind of the very clear target and you had no idea if there was even a way to get yourself talked out of it. But I felt like if he had just pushed a little harder, he could have really had finally been one of the few youngins to survive and make it to merge and possibly even be the winner. But I'm not sure. I wish we could have seen more of him, honestly.
yeah. Tyrell's a very fun player to watch. And he played a very good game. Like I said in Fans versus Favorites, anyone who can survive literally 6 consecutive tribals and hitting that 7th tribal before he ends up leaving is very impressive. And it's you
Something very hard.
very hard, especially because you don't have that time to solidify bonds in between tribal councils. So it was Harry, Jessica, and Tyrell, though they all go back to back to back, and we've talked a lot about their flaws. All 3 of them played great games on their original tribe, and
Oh yeah, definitely.
with a slight like twist of luck. Like if Tyrell, like you were saying, Maji, if Tyrell just it's so unfortunate if he just
held on a little longer.
held on a little longer. He had the opening with Crow, and he could have maybe flipped Ben and Crow and had a 3-2 vote against Annabeth or Alex. And it's just.
But sadly, his brain just went, nah. Which, like I said, I'm not mad at him for it. I'm just disappointed because I really wanted to see him. I really wanted to see him try and really pull it and be like, I'm the underdog. I'm going to do this.
You know, it's
He was.
when you get hit with a I'm
like
not
a
mad, I'm just
disappointed
disappointed.
mother. I'm just a disappointed mother, Tyrell.
Harsh stuff. But I think fair. I think it I agree. I think it comes from a place of wanting to see Tyrell succeed. And he was so they were in every single vote they were all well, maybe not the Harry vote. The idol really screwed him over and made him a bigger target than Tyrell. But in the Jessica vote and the Tyrell quit, they really had their chances.
I just felt like if they had just kept up the social bonding more than the strategic, they would have. This would have been a very different swap, and maybe people wouldn't complain so much, being like, "Oh, it's so boring." Because I get that, but also you have to understand that if any of them had just done things slightly different, we would have had a completely different swap. But sometimes people just don't do those things. I mean, I definitely have a lot of regrets in past orgs, and I'm sure they're going to also have these regrets.
Absolutely. It's impossible to play perfectly, and sometimes things just don't break your way.
No one has 20/20 vision.
That's one thing I'm really curious to see in this season, though. What you just touched on about, having regrets and wondering what you could have done differently to get further. I think there's going to be a lot of that in this season because with almost all of Masalai getting massacred at the very beginning, it really. I mean, Terrell touched on it before he quit. He said, you're all going to make Final 8, sure. You're all going to make Final 9, sure. But not all of you are going to make the FTC. So it's like, what are you going to do then? I think it's going to be really interesting to see for when it does get down to just all 17 ting. If it does get down to just all 17 ting and Kenneth and Triss are knocked out from where we stand now, it's going to be really interesting to see who takes those first few swings and gets people out and who ends up falling victim to this dream of, oh, all 17 ting strong, when in reality, that can't be the case.
I actually have a. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you go, Maji.
I actually have like this lingering wonder on if Savatinting will just go completely crazy on each other first before even thinking about Kenneth and Triss. Because I feel like if those two can play their card rights, they could really make it to FTC and be really under the radar and play the game that they are the only Youngians to survive, because Savatinting was just so focused on exactly what you said. Because sure, they got rid of all the Youngians, but now they have to focus on each other.
I love this conversation, but before we get more in depth into the merge, let's go back to the last tribal council that we are supposed to cover, and that we do see a Savatingting member go home for the first time.
Ever.
This is the first tribal council where only Savatingting members are at tribal council. It is the same tribe: Crow, Ben, Annabeth, and Alex. And we see Alex eliminated in a 3-2-1 vote. What are your thoughts?
Alex!
A relatable
Dad.
thought. Alex is a. I watched her play in Essential, and I watched her play here. She's a very kind person, but what I've seen of her, I don't think she necessarily has a lot of strategic tact. She's a wonderful person, but in the beginning of the season, she like admitted that she went to a final tribal council with Antony in a different org. She's very open about who she likes, and uh, that's a fantastic trait in a human being. But sometimes I think it makes it hard to connect on like an alliance level.
Oh, definitely. Because even right away, I remember in before swap, people were already on if the Youngians didn't constantly lose, I knew that they knew that Alex and Ant were their threats and their targets because of Alex openly expressing how much she loved Ant and how much she was just Alex is a wonderful person. Me and Julie know her personally, and this was my first time watching her play, and I was just I kept on being so happy whenever the Youngins would lose because I felt like she was just digging her own grave every single time I saw her talk about how much her and Ant were tight, and I'm just like, please, please, Alex, stop. You're on my finals. Stop.
Yeah.
I like
Oh,
how that's it. It's just like, yeah.
yeah. I mean, absolutely, I agree. Gove, anything to add?
I mean, as awful as it is to say, I think Alex's game was one that was just kind of inevitably gonna end sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Despite her being such a warm presence in the tribe, and I think she was generally appreciated as a whole, it didn't really feel like she was making very strong one-on-one or core group impacts in terms of her social game or strategic game for that matter. Um, and I think put her in a situation where a lot of people kind of felt she was expendable, especially with this whole fixation on got to split up Alex and Anthony because they're close. Um, so I think there was definitely potential there. I think she just didn't end up hitting the points of her game that she really needed to hit for safety.
Yeah, it's true because all of them loved Alex. They all really liked her, but they knew out of all of them going into merge that Alex was. I hate to say this because it sounds so mean to say, but that she was the weakest link of the four of them, and it hurts to say that, but it's
Welcome
just
to podcasting.
she didn't hit those solid points that she really needed to in order to survive.
Yeah,
It hurts. It hurts so bad.
it does. It always stings to see someone so kind get eliminated. Let me ask this. So, I think I don't want to speak for all of us, but I'm personally very high on Crow after these 4 episodes and seeing him having the killer instinct, but also knowing when to stay the course and when to kind of keep his OG tribe together.
Oh,
Do you
definitely.
think that potentially Annabeth and my brain just farted, Annabeth and Ben would be better served to have taken out Crow, who I think is a much bigger, longer term merge threat than Alex would be?
I definitely do feel like
Yes.
it would have been the smarter decision, but I felt like in their brain they were focusing more on who's the stronger I like to be with, and I don't think they know exactly about Crow's murder tendencies yet. And sadly, they're going to find out the hard way.
Yeah.
I think it goes both ways because on one hand, when you're looking at the tribal council itself, Alex is someone who has been very vocal from day one about where her allegiances lie. Anthony number one, the rest of 17 team number two, Masalai can go away. That's where she stood from day one and
Very.
continued to stay throughout an entire stay. So with Alex, it's like you know what you're getting. You might not be for it, but you know what you're getting, and you can prepare to prevent it if it ever crosses your line.
Agreed.
But
Hmm.
with Crow, he's so tight with everybody, you have no idea where his allegiances lie, especially having not gone to a tribal with the OG tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a pure tribal standpoint and figuring out what the best vote is on the surface level, I think Crow would have been the smarter decision. But when you look at the implications that come after the vote, that's where it gets a little tricky because say another swap happens or the merge, which is what just happened. The merge comes in. Alex is gone. You saw the reactions from all the OG 17 team people that remained on 17 team. They were all like, "Okay, yeah, I expected that. It's fine. It sucks, whatever." But at 17 team had to go. We didn't throw the challenge, so one of them had to leave. I'm fine with it being Alex. None of us were that tight with her anyway. It is what it is. But when you look at what would have happened if Crow had gone, it would have been a really weird situation where there probably would have been some mixed signals there. They probably would have felt like, oh, they're trying to tell us something by getting rid of Crow. Like, what happened? I thought we all liked Crow, and that could have definitely caused some negative implications on the merge tribe. That would have said, we're not 17 strong anymore. F you guys. We're going to figure out something else out.
I feel like it would have been a double-edged sword because no matter who they were eliminating, someone wasn't going to be happy about it, or someone would become a bigger threat because of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, and then I think another aspect of this to consider is it's still early in the game. It's still pre-merge, and in my personal game philosophy, you cannot win a game pre-merge. You only need to You just need to survive the pre-merge, and in like I know for me personally, when I think about who I want to go into the merge with, I see it as like I have bonds that I can leverage and I can use those bonds to make things happen. And if I felt like I had a bond with Crow but not Alex, even though Crow's a bigger threat, I might be more inclined to keep him because I feel like if I know where Alex stands, um but it's not with me, and I feel like I could potentially use Crow. I feel like there's an argument there for keeping him. I think it's an interesting debate. There's definitely lots of fantastic points on both sides.
Definitely. I'm just it's like I it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It feels like it's reasonable. It definitely makes sense why they got rid of Alex, but I feel like in terms of potential threats, they should have gotten rid of Crow. But like you just said, if none of them had a good connection to Alex and they all had a good connection to Crow, their obvious pick is going to be voting out Alex over Crow, even if they may or may not know that Crow is planning a murder spree as they speak.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think this is a fantastic jumping off point to get to the merge. We're at the merge, and
Yeehaw!
yeehaw! I think the first
But
question that, like, the elephant in the room, there's two Mossily people left, Kenneth and Triss. What do you guys think? What are the chances of them making it to the end?
Here's
I
the
think,
thing. Oh no, you go
no,
first.
you
Go.
got it, you got it, you got it.
No, you go.
Go starts, then Maji can go.
Go go.
All right. So Kenneth said it best, honestly, in one of his recent confessionals. He said, I feel like either I get this first merge boot or I win the game, one or the other. And that's pretty much how I'm feeling about both their chances. I think a pro with Kenneth is that he is really good on his feet. He's a really quick thinker. He knows how to turn the game around in his favor. And we saw that at the tribal where he was able to flip the numbers against Winston and keep both himself and his minority ally Trish safe. So I think on a strategic level, he's got a really good chance. Socially, people really like him. I think the only problem he's going to have is managing the threat level, especially because he's viewed as someone with a lot of potential, but also in the minority, which is a really dangerous combination. Whereas Triss, I think, has a really good social game. She's really easy to connect with. She's very present in the tribe chat. She's very warm towards everyone who talks to her. So I think it's weird because all of the pros that they have can so easily become cons for both of them. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really depends on how they play, especially these first few tribals. And I think if they want to get to the end, they're obviously gonna have to play up 17 team versus 17 team and then just keep, putting up that facade, kind of like DeWitt did in season 5, where he would consistently pit people against each other so he could fade in the background, despite him being arguably the biggest threat from the entire merge forward.
It's so hard though to pull that off because the difference with him and with Kenneth and DeWitt is DeWitt didn't have that immediate narrative, like Kenneth and Triss, if either of one of them makes the end, they're gonna win just because they can say our entire tribe was decimated pre-merge,
Uh,
and now we're
yeah.
here. And that narrative
Yeah,
And
exists.
like they're
Everyone
the
knows.
survivors.
Yeah, like
Quite
for the
literally.
same reason that Quizzy and I in season 10 were trying to target Gabe, and it didn't work, obviously, but we knew that
It
he
worked
had
for
that
me,
there.
but yeah.
At the well, it worked for Maji, but didn't work for me. But the thing with Gabe is like he was going from first boot to final tribal council. That's an obvious story. When you have a story as powerful as that, everyone can see it, and getting to the end is so difficult. So I don't know if I agree with Kenneth's assessment that he's either the merge boot or the winner. I can definitely see him at like 6 or 5, just because everyone's like, holy shit, how is Kenneth still here? Uh-oh.
I think
First of
when
all, Kenneth just got an idol, so I don't think
Oh
he's gonna be
fuck.
first boot.
yes, he did.
Jesus. Whoa. Breaking
Yeah,
podcast
it
news.
just happened.
Breaking news. This is our first breaking news segment. Very exciting.
Da da da.
Damn.
But so at least we know he has a little bit of safety under him. So
That's
if
great.
anything, he's not going to be the first boot, which is great.
King shit.
Because my thing about Triss and Kenneth is, I feel like, especially even if they don't make it far, I feel like they'll definitely be a high contender for fan favorite, just because they are the only Ting that is left. And if they could easily make it to FTC by, like Gove said, I'm just jumping off of everything he said, by just simply pitting all them against each other and fading into the background, it'd be really easy for them to just have either one of them be the clear standing winner. And honestly, I'm just saying, I'm all for Triss, especially since I feel like with how social she can be, she can manipulate the tides into her favor. But like Gove said, that can also be a really bad thing for her. That's what sucks about those two. They have such high qualities and like such high opportunities, but all it could also be their downfall at the very same time because they are in that minority.
Let's move on to this. Our final segment of the day. For long-time listeners, you might know that our second podcast of the year, we do a final tribal council guess segment. Gove has always been the best at these.
Let's go.
Mink has always been the worst by far, but Mink isn't here today. Today we have Maji, so we'll see how she does.
Uh-oh.
Mink is better than Monica.
Maji, why don't let's throw it to you as the guest. Who, if you had to guess the final 3 of this season, who would you pick and why?
Ah, fuck.
That's a big.
Okay.
If you need time to think about it, I can go first.
You go first because I have to think from a strategic and a personal standpoint. So you
Yes.
got to give me a minute.
Of course. Sorry to. I just chucked that on you. My bad.
No, it's okay. I'll be honest. I very much zoned out for like the last minute, and then hearing that, I went, "Oh fuck." But you go first.
My pick for the winner of this season is Craig, and I think he will. Oh man. The second I said that, I'm looking at a list of everyone who's left, and my mind immediately changed. It's so hard because Gove's strategy of like pick the person you most medium suspect to win is very good.
It's not always the case though.
No, there's so many threats left because like we talked about before, Bree is a massive player with very visible vocal power tendencies. Crow is the social king. Everyone has him as his number 1. You have to think he'll get caught eventually. Kenneth and Triss both have those stories. Is Anthony going to be able to bounce back? I know he's been VCing people. That's sort of why my initial instinct was Craig, because he's sort of like Crow, but is gone, like probably less of a threat than Crow. But if there's so many threats, can Craig take them all out? I'm gonna say, and then let's Hudson is also a very solid player with potential to make it far. I like what I've seen from him. Annabeth, they're all good.
I know
They're all
it
good.
sucks because all of them I feel like have a really solid chance of winning, but the moment you look at them all, it's like, but who's going to be the picking order and who's going to be the strongest of them all? And
Yeah,
we just don't know because all of them have that one little weak spot that if one person finds out or exposes, they could just be dead.
Yep.
absolutely. Okay, I've revised my entire idea. This is a completely new idea off the cuff. Let's go. I think
Do it, do
winner
it,
of this
do it.
season is going to be Antony in a comeback. And I think he's going to have
Ooh.
Cove and Ben with him in the final tribal council, or Ben and Annabeth. Let's say Ben and Annabeth and Antony. I think Antony, now that he's had time, he's a very skilled player, very under the radar, and maybe seen as like an easy boot, which will get him past the first few rounds. But I think he has the potential to really turn it on at the end. So that's my pick. The end.
Wait, who did you pick?
Antony to win with Annabeth and Ben in the final tribal council with him.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting.
It's a risky one. Gove. I should have picked Crow. Whatever. It.
You can revise it. You
No,
did it twice already.
I'm not gonna. I'm sticking.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I think Crow has the opportunity to play a very, very solid game, and I think he's played the best game so far. And that's all I'll say about that. Gove.
All right, so this is tricky because my usual strategy, like you mentioned, is the whole totem pole thing. Figuring out who is going to be at the top when the season is said and done, and going to be prepared to get the jury votes. But it's tricky right now because unlike in a lot of previous seasons, there is no one or two totem poles. There are so many because if you look at season 8, 9, 10, really every season before that, they all had two sides going into merge. Whether it was tribe versus tribe, whether it was swap tribe versus swap tribe, whether it was any other combination of people, it
The
was one
weird
tribe versus the
season
other.
10 shit we had.
But
Yeehaw.
ultimately, always very clear cut one side versus the other by the time the first tribal rolled around. Where we still haven't had the first merge challenge, so we can't really, see what the sides are quite yet. But to me, it really feels like it's a lot of factions going. We have people who are aligned in one direction or another. It seems right now that it's going to be Bree versus Annabeth as his first tribal, but even then, that doesn't really tell us how the rest of the season is going to be set up. This is a merged tribal that's very unique in that it doesn't feel like it has a lot of weight in how what direction we're going to go in for the next few votes, but it doesn't seem like this first merged tribal council is going to impact the late game of this, and that's where I'm kind of confused and having a little trouble figuring out who to pick this season because there's so many different directions I feel this could go in. But if I had to pick someone who I think has the best chance of consistently reaching the end in any number of these, timelines or dimensions or whatever, I would probably go with either Craig or Hudson,
Yeah,
just because they are
should have
very
picked
in,
them.
they're very in to know, what Bree's side is doing right now, if you want to call it Bree's side. They have ties to her, but then also they've kept their OG 17 team ties intact, and they have okay relationships with Kenneth and Triss. So I think all around, they're doing the best in keeping themselves informed without giving themselves too much power. And I think that's a really good recipe for any Survivor game.
Okay, so who's your final three?
Final three, I would say there's a good chance I think Craig and Hudson go to the end together, which is
Yeah,
another reason why I think they have better chances of winning or getting to the end because they're going to do it together.
I agree. I think they can see
But
each other. I think either of them could win a final tribal council, which means they're more likely to take each other.
Hmm.
right. And if I had to pick a third to go with them, I'm going to say Triss because
Really?
hear me out. This is very, very circumstantial. But I
No,
think
please go on. I agree.
I think if Craig and Hudson are the two people or get to the end together, whether it's final three, final two, FTC, whatever, they get to the end together, then I'm guessing that they did that by staying in the middle lane the entire time, refusing to lean too heavily to one side or the other, but doing so in a UTR manner. I think if they keep pitting people against each other, like what's going on right now with Bree and Annabeth, then I think Triss is someone who's going to always be able to avoid any fire just because she's not viewed as someone who's as threatening as those next to her.
That would be an amazing final tribal council.
Because I
It
mean, like
would
if you
be.
look at it right now, it's you know, on Bree's side, it's Bree viewed as strategical and social threat, Cove viewed as a physical threat, Kenneth viewed as someone with immense potential to be a number of threat in the different areas. Then you have on Annabeth's side, Annabeth, physical threat, who also has stepped into a leadership role on the Swap tribe. Crow, who appears to be a strategical threat, and is also very socially, you know,
Good.
he's doing well socially. And just go down the list. I feel like Triss is someone who has things going for her, but she's not playing such an open, apparent game to where she's going to be targeted that much.
That's fair. That,
Only
That
thing
is
is,
fair.
I
that's
have
a
no idea who's in the situation. No
that's a
idea who
much
wins.
more exciting prediction than mine. Uh, yeah,
I can already tell I'm gonna be bad at this.
it's hard. This is a tough season too because literally 5 of them have never been to tribal council before. So how are we supposed to know
Oh, that's true.
what their deals are? Do you want to give it a go though? To be fair, you
I do
cannot be
want to get it.
worse. You cannot be worse than Mink. It would be impossible. Mink is so bad at this.
Now I'm gonna be very sad if none of my predictions even get close to the end. And I hope you know it's gonna be your fault if that
Okay,
happens.
fair.
But okay, but basically, here's the thing. You guys are thinking strategically. I am not smart enough for that. I have 2 brain cells and all I think about is girls. So you know
Says the
what?
winner, season 10.
They're the only women win. But okay, jokes aside though, realistically, I feel like if Triss is gonna go to final council, Kenneth is gonna be at final council too. Because I feel like
Hmm.
those two are definitely going to have to stick together in order for either of them to survive long enough. Sure, maybe they'll try to snipe each other down near the end, but I
Okay.
feel like if either of them is getting even close to the final tribal, at those they're gonna take each other because well actually I feel like if anything, Triss would be the one to survive out of the two because of Kenneth's physical power, and she can easily tell people, get people to agree on that, and be able to be the one to survive. I can see Kenneth going all the way to Final Four and just being sniped down by Triss and the rest, whoever I suddenly think are the final two. But I really do think Triss has a chance to win. I feel like besides the story bit, she has those social connections with the jury. She has the story. She has the vibes. She's a lady. Simply,
She's a lady.
she
True.
just has every. She just has all the qualities of a winner in my eyes, at least. Because I feel
So
like for a winner, you don't have to be physically the strongest. You have to be someone who socially managed to survive.
Yeah.
Because
right,
sure you can win comps and stay safe. You can get those idols. You can comp out. But a more interesting story is hearing someone who survived all the odds through their words alone and through their relationships, plus was the final survivor of her original tribe and the only one that of before basically merge besides Kenneth. I feel like with between the two of them, Triss has a better chance of making it to the final three and winning. But if I had to choose who would go with her, I feel like realistically Crow would be a very
Mm,
obvious pick. And honestly, I could see it being a big fight between Triss and Crow. And then, uh, well,
just toss
Bree?
pen in.
Why not? Bree!
Bree.
Bree! Wild card!
let's
The wild
go.
card.
All right.
So to put all that shortly, basically what Maji is saying is that
Yes,
Trish has a
make sense of my
50%
words.
chance of winning. Trish has a 50% chance of winning, and Bree has the other 50% because they're the only two females remaining. But
I it
but
was a
Bree is in
50
trouble right
50.
now, so basically Trish wins.
I was thinking it was a 50% Tris and Crow.
Crow's not a
Yes,
lady
I
though.
know a man
Yeah, Crow's not a
tragically.
lady. Crow's a man.
Yeah,
I
there's no
know,
way Crow will
tragically,
win.
he's a man, but also his physical abilities and his social connections are just very strong. And I could also see him going out very close to the end, but I feel like if he made it to the final three, he has a very strong chance of winning. I just am a little bit of more of a lesbian and like ladies more. So Triss has to be my obvious pick.
That's fair
If we
enough.
want to get analytical with this, though, if you want to get into the roots of in the history of Visionary, then as some of us know, the only female winners have all been above the age of 17. The only
Ooh.
male winners have all been below the age of 18.
So Kenneth is
Oh,
So
gonna win.
really?
So Kenneth's
really,
gonna
That's
win.
it
interesting.
comes down to Kenneth or Bree if we're gonna go based on that math.
Yep.
Oh, maybe I should keep Bree as the wild card. So then, yeah, I'm locking it in. Triss as the winner, and Crow and Bree with them. Yes, it's not going to come true, but am I sticking by it? Hell yes.
Hell yeah.
The numbers don't lie, Tris. The numbers don't lie.
The numbers don't lie. I should know. I'm a very somehow winner.
uh, I'm changing my final tribal council pick. I'm going with
See, it's so
uh
hard to tell. It's so hard
I'm
to get.
I'm going
It
with
is hard. I'm
Craig
not even confident in mind.
Craig Ben and Cove. That's my official pick. I think Craig's gonna win with Ben and Cove as the final tribal council. My aunt
I'm not
pick was
changing
bad.
mine. I'm too
Well,
stubborn.
okay, changing it again. Craig, Anthony, and Ben. Craig, Anthony, and Ben are gonna make the final three. That's it. That's it. It's done. Okay.
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not. I can't. I'm not smart enough for this kind of stuff.
Me neither. But that's why we're here. We try our best. Wow, that's our time, you guys. That was
Oh wait, really?
yeah,
No.
we actually went 5 minutes over. I'm sorry to say. But Maji, thank
Whoops.
you so much for being such a fantastic guest. It was so fun having you on. Seriously, this was great.
And it was so fun to be on. Please invite me again. Please. I'm desperate.
You gotta fire me, honestly. Maji's a
Listen,
replacement.
yeah, absolutely.
Fire me can hire me. Look at me. I'm a lady. I'm the token lesbian. You can't deny that.
That's true. I can't. Yeah, you're the first lady to ever appear on the podcast, and also the first winner. Really,
Wait, really?
I think so because it's usually just me, Gove, and Mink,
And that's Robert.
and
I'm
sometimes
taking Mink's
Robert.
spot. I don't have a social life unlike Mink, so therefore this is my spot now.
All right. Wow. Thank you guys so much for listening. I know at the start of the podcast we might have seemed down on the season, but I think it's about to really pick up. Just talking about the merge made me very excited for what we're gonna deal with. Thank you guys so much for listening, and have a. I'm trying to come up with like a good sign off, so I'll try this one out. Tell me what you think, Maji. Have a
I
great
shall.
visionary day. What do you think? Good?
I'm sorry. That was a little cringy, man.
Yeah,
No.
very cringy. Okay, I'll workshop it
I'm
for later.
sorry.
No, yeah, it was
Wait, no.
absolutely
Why don't
cringe.
you try have a survive another day, visionary? No, that's
Survive
also cringy.
is less cringy though. The podcast has spoken. All right.
Everyone just spamming lame and trash and cringe at us.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what?
That's fair.
Next podcast, I'll come back with an outro that's super good. All right, love you all. Bye.
Bye bye.